Welcome back, friends, to Fantasy Pros. It is the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Chris Welsh, and today I've got 10 undervalued players that you need to get in your last-minute drafts. You've got to pay attention. Why are these guys so undervalued? Well, we're exposing the secrets, and you will be reaping the benefits. You also can reap the benefits when you sign up and check out Fantasy Pros today. One way, you guys can sync your leagues. Do you still have a draft going on? I bet you do. Well, if you do, and I assume you do, go and sync your league today, get in a bunch of mock drafts, and practice. Use the draft assistant to hold your hand through all of the drafts, give you draft advice as you go. But guess what? We're not done after that hand holding, because we are going to be walking hand in hand all season long when you go and check out My Playbook. FantasyPros.com/MLB My Playbook. Lineup assistant, waiver assistant, trade assistant, and more. Take advantage of the most powerful fantasy tools in the industry by checking us out today over on Fantasy Pros. A lot of these cool, amazing tools are free. Give them a whirl, but you can check out Premium today to unlock the full gambit of amazing tools, and I highly suggest you do. Are you ready, my friends, to unlock these secrets? Well, maybe they're not so secrety, but I just don't understand why they're undervalued. You tell me in the comment section below. So let's get to it. The 10 undervalued players that you gotta have on your draft boards. Number 1, Texas Rangers third baseman Josh Young. I pulled a complete 180 on this one because there was a time in the draft space where Josh Young was being overvalued. But due to his injury, the ADPs, they've dropped. But guess what? He's just about to return. His ADP is just outside the 110. This is for a guy in 120 games that hit over 20 homers, was in the Rookie of the Year chase before he got hurt, gets to the World Series now, where his negatives, there's some strikeouts in his game, 29% K rate last year, but his minor league career, that's not who he was. Josh Young ran between a 15 and 22% strikeout rate throughout the majority of his minor leagues up until he started to try to sell out for power. He's still doing that, but I think the strikeout rate is going to drop. He was running bases on the backfields just the other day, was in a minor league spring training game where he had a triple and a double before coming out. The power's back, the legs are going to come back, the batting average can maintain, and projections have him around as a 260, almost 30 home run hitter if he puts up 150 games. By that measure, outside the top 100, Josh Young, he's undervalued. Coming in at number 2, Marcel Ozuna, util for the Atlanta Braves. How about this? 40 homers. 100 RBI, 84 runs with a 274 batting average. Those numbers are top 100. Easy top 100. Frankly, 40 homers and with 100 RBI, you're almost looking at Pete Alonso base numbers. But because we're util only, Marcel Ozuna, his ADP is outside the top 130 according to Fantasy Pros consensus ADP. It's just silly based on the production that you can get and that he showed off as a Brave last year. 22% K rate, 49% hard hit rate, elite barrel percentage in the 16th percentile. He had an almost 92% average exit velocity and an expected batting average that was higher than his batting average at 283. Marcel Ozuna is in one of the best lineups in baseball, hitting right in the middle. There's going to be a ton of RBI opportunities when you are hitting behind Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley. It's the util only that gets people stuck. There are some platforms where he's not util only, and he should move up. I don't care so much about the util. You can make it up. What's not easy to make up are 40 homers and 100 RBI. Projection systems obviously aren't going to push out the exact same numbers, but they're still feeling an almost 260 batting average, the 30 homer mark, right around the 90 RBI. So even if he doesn't get to his marker, he is being criminally undervalued simply because he's positionless, though it's on one of the best teams. Marcel Ozuna is a bat you gotta get. Number 3, Toronto Blue Jays pitcher Jose Barrios with an ADP, consensus ADP, outside the top 150. Barrios last year had a top 30 percentile in the league chase rate. He also pretty low walk rate as well, 77th percentile with only 6.6 while having an almost 24% strikeout rate. Now, His expected ERA does show some regression into the 4s, but he did have a 3.65 ERA last year as he changed up his pitch mix, becoming a more primary sinker pitcher, which is going to end up equating to more ground balls, and if the defense is supportive, hopefully lower run totals. He's still not afraid to get the strikeouts though, as he has 2 pitches over a 30% whiff rate, and 3 of his 4 equate to 27% or more. So the strikeouts, they're still getting there with Jose Barrios. The value and cost just isn't, and this has been kind of something we've seen across drafts. There are these older, more boring pitchers that have fallen back. Barrios, he's going to end up getting innings, 189 last year, 172 the year before, 192. He's had over 180 strikeouts in 2 of the last 3 years as well. Relatively low whip numbers, double-digit wins. Jose Barrios doesn't pop off the board, but he is undervalued. So take a look at Jose Barrios to fill out the middle of your rotation. Coming in at number 4 is New York Yankees starting pitcher Carlos Redon. Redon has been a little bit dicey for a lot of people, pretty much because he completely fell off last year with the injury. He had come off of 2 straight seasons from 21 to 22 with an over 33% strikeout rate, ERAs that were under 3. Then everything fell apart last year with the injury once he signed with the New York Yankees, where he had a 22% strikeout rate, an almost 10% walk rate, and an ERA that was on a hot air balloon. But Redon is healthy now. He has taken this spring to getting back to his roots. He's got a sub-3 ERA so far in spring, even though there was a bad outing or 2. The walks, they've stayed right around 2. The strikeouts have been a little bit lower. His velocity has kind of come up and down, but we've seen consistency as spring and as his innings have caught on. The New York Yankees are going to be counting on big innings from him. There's also a lot of potential win support, and if we get back to that 30% strikeout rate, Redon will be elite. He does not cost that. His ADP is outside the top 160 and sometimes falling even a little bit further for people that were scared of the spring. Carlos Redon is the perfect type of risk, yet he's being undervalued based on the high. We see a lot of boring pitchers. Jose Barrios we talked about. Still think he's undervalued. But Redon, same thing. The upside is there. The downside is pretty well aware, but he is being undervalued based on that upside, going outside the top 160. Coming in at number 5 is a versatile middle infielder, Thyro Estrada with the San Francisco Giants, who have been spending and spending. One of the reasons that they can go and pick up pieces around is a guy like Thyro Estrada who has been consistent. Hit 271 last year, 14 homers, 23 stolen bases. Guess what? That's 2 straight years with at least 14 homers and 2 straight years with 20 or more strikeouts. He improved his batting average this past year and would have surpassed his run and RBI totals if he had had more games. Only played 120 games this past season. His expected batting average still right around the 250 mark, and he got a career-high launch angle of over 10 degrees, which is definitely something you would want in more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark. But the main thing we are here for is the position versatility from a guy like Estrada and the stolen bases. If this team gets going and scores a lot of runs, Estrada is going to be at the forefront of it. He has a legit shot to set career highs in all of the 5 major fantasy categories this season, and projections feel the same. ATC, Ariel Cohen, 261 batting average, 15 homers, 23 stolen bases with 71 runs in just 130 games. Yes, you're getting close to a 20-25 or 20-30 guy on a full season, and if a couple things go right. Thyro Estrada, criminally undervalued in drafts where his ADP is past 170. Number 6, we're going to the Chicago Cubs, and we're taking a look at Christopher Morell. Chris Morell had 26 homers last year in barely over 100 games while hitting 247. But the talk of the town are his strikeouts, over 31%. It's definitely a problem. But there's been team support. Craig Counsell loves this guy, wants to get him there. So much so, they want to hand that third base job to him. He is volatile, but there's so much offensive upside. In spring, his strikeout rate's been around 26% with a double-digit walk rate, hitting just south of 290, 2 homers, 2 stolen bases. Projections love him. In just 129 games, ATC has 26 homers, 10 stolen bases, with a 242 batting average. We know they can go either way. What we do know, regardless of the batting average, is there is 30-15 potential in his game. Either way, if it's more homers or more stolen bases, he's going to get the opportunity to roll, and we're going to roll with him. ADP outside the 180s. Christopher Morell, undervalued based on the high upside production in Chicago. Coming in at number 7, we're going to Milwaukee for shortstop Willie Adams. What a down year last year. Hit only 217 with a career low BABIP though, 259. Usually he sits around 310. That is a relative marker for positive regression in the batting average department. Last season, another thing that tells us that, he had an expected batting average of 240, which was higher than his expected batting average over the previous 3 seasons, yet the batting average was at an all-time low. His hard hit numbers were a little bit down, yet he was still barreling the ball, still hitting it hard, while the expected stats were in his favor. Now, there's been a lot of trade rumors, and that's actually something that still works in his favor. Projections are back on Willie Adams. ATC 27 homers with a 241 batting average. BatX has 28 homers, 7 stolen bases with almost a 250 for a couple different projections. And if he does get traded, you're going to go to a contender for more run and RBI opportunities, yet many see him in the 80-80. So if you get a 25 homer, 80 with a 250 batting average, that is worth well more than where he's currently going. He is undervalued when shortstops can start to get kind of scary. Willie Adams is that undervalued middle infielder for power that you need. We're going to actually stick with Milwaukee because we got another coming in at number 8, Rhys Hoskins, first baseman with the Milwaukee Brewers, who missed all of last season. He has no stats prior to that. But the previous 3 seasons, he had hit between 245 and 247. That's consistency. The season before getting hurt with Philly, hit 30 homers with a 25% strikeout rate. It has not been a great spring as far as batting average goes, but he's had a lower strikeout rate, already hit a couple homers, and he's ready to rebound now that he's healthy. In a hitter-friendly environment, Rhys Hoskins can get back to those big power numbers. His hard hit rate in 2022 around 44%, 46 a year before that. Those are maintainable numbers. With a better barrel rate, a little bit of launch angle like he always does, he's going to put up some big power numbers in Milwaukee this year while hitting in an RBI spot, hitting behind guys like Willie Adams and Christian Yelich. Projections, they see him right around the 30 home run marker. It's not easy to find those type of home runs late in drafts. So almost 200 ADP, Rhys Hoskins is criminally undervalued for not just a first base spot in a deeper league, but should be a primary target for your corner infielder. Coming in at number 9, this is going to be a wild one. We're going to the closer department with Jose Leclerc with the Texas Rangers. Now, what are we doing here? Closers are dropping like flies. We're losing Duran. We're losing Devin Williams. We are losing guys left and right that you can count on. So that's going to raise the cost on some of the top guys, and it weirdly changes the value on the lower. And Jose Leclerc is one of the guys that has been sitting on the bottom run of closers, yet he was just given the assurance that the closing job is going to be his with the Texas Rangers, World Series champions. Win opportunities. They brought in David Robertson, who's going to be the setup guy. Now, he is some competition if Leclerc is going to fail, but Leclerc is going to be given that first run out. He's undervalued because the closing market has become so scary, yet he's got the same feelings of a guy like Evan Phillips, a great team with team support. He has been given this role all spring training long, so unless he completely falls apart, there is going to be no committee. Where there are many other committees that are floating out. All the injured guys have committees. There are multiple other teams that might float a couple guys. Jose Leclerc with an ADP of 200 or even further when you don't count NFBC leagues is undervalued and a saves guy that you should target. And lastly, coming in at number 10, Colorado Rockies shortstop Ezekiel Tovar with the official post 200 ADP, which is still pretty shocking. Tovar last season, 15 homers, 11 stolen bases with a 253 batting average, relatively mediocre. He's ready to take the next step this season, and projections see that love. ATC for 263, 16 homers, 13 stolen bases. Last season as well, he raised his hard hit rate. He had an expected batting average right around his current batting average and a relative high at the middle infield spot of a launch angle of over 12 degrees. You don't usually see something like that in a great hitter-friendly environment in Colorado. Shortstops are top-heavy. There are names to choose from. There are great sleepers out there. Tovar is one of the few, similar to Willie Adams, that you can draft as a starting shortstop. But, as our dear friend Joe Pisapia would talk about with relative position value, he is an even plus in value if you can get him at middle infield. Don't be shocked when Tovar is hitting at the top of the lineup, scoring 90 runs for Colorado, and putting up a 2020 season outside the top 200. Not only is that undervalued, sometimes those can be league winners. So get yourself some Ezekiel Tovar. So what do you think? Are they undervalued? I sure think they are. I go look at those ADPs and I cannot believe it. But all drafts are different. Some of those guys might fall further in your own draft. Some might be going higher. I say you got to make sure you're targeting them because it doesn't make sense and I want you to reap the benefits. But let's hear from you in the comments. Who are your favorite undervalued players that we just talked about? Is there one that I didn't mention? Love to see that. Make sure you comment below because guess what? We've always got awesome, cool giveaways going on. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel below, make comments, and amazing things happen. And we talk to you, and we love you, and we appreciate you. Amazing things, just like we're going to be doing on the opening of Leading Off, which is happening this Thursday on opening day. Joe Pisapia, myself, Chris Welsh. We got wigs, we got mustaches. It's a theme show for the opening day. So if you're ready to point and laugh and, maybe have some fun, check it out right here on the YouTube channel. We'll be live 12 p.m. Eastern every single day for Leading Off this year. So make sure you're locked in. As well, download the My Playbook app to help you all season long because your drafts may be over. And God bless you for still hanging out and watching this video. But we got you in season as well with all the waiver, the trade, and lineup analysis that you're going to need. So check it out today, fantasypros.com/MLB My Playbook. Thanks so much for hanging out. You can find me on Twitter at @IsItTheWelsh for all the musings, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Fantasy Pros on the YouTube. Bye, friends.